Yeah. Okay. Okay. This is going okay. So let me just direct monitor right now. Hello everybody and welcome to Organian's Puzzle Box. And in today's video, I want to do a tutorial in which I am going to create a asteroid field, well, more like an asteroid circling a sort of a star that's inside a volume in Blender. This is very quick and very easy, and I'm sure it will teach you some very valuable lessons for anybody who hasn't used Blender for a long time, or people who don't really know how to use volumes and point lights and things like that. This tutorial is definitely good for you. And also, if you're interested, I would definitely have a look at the Nebula generator that I have on ArtStation, Patreon, Gumroad. If you go on Patreon, you can pretty much have it if you subscribe, which is for a very low fee. But if you want, you can get an ArtStation or Gumroad, and then you can toy around with a lot of volumes. But with that in mind, you can also, so basically you can use that with this, but you don't need to necessarily do that. This tutorial stands on its own, in particular for creating some atmospheric scenes in space in Blender. As I said, with asteroids rotating around a star, for example. Now, very important to note is that the project file for this is in the description below. You can get it from ArtStation, or you can find it on my Patreon, just so you can get started very quickly with this. I've actually got a video sort of rendering behind me as well on this right now, and you know, I'm quite curious to see what comes out. The scene is very simplistic in terms of setup, and that's what I like about it. Short and simple, and you get a nice effect. So let's begin. Now I want to start off by doing a bit of a scene breakdown over here in Blender. We've got cycles on, and this is the scene that I'm sort of showing to you. Now it's got a few stars there in the distance. We can push that effect if we want to, and I'll show you how to do that. But then we've got over here, we've got our asteroids, which are some collections of asteroids. You can see it in here. There's roughly 10 asteroids in the collection, and these collections are generated by a particle system. So we've got these asteroids over here, and then, for example, we have these, and this is, you know, they can rotate around. The scene is quite light, and then there's a volumetric effect inside the scene that creates this. And if you normally just add in a volume scattered into the world shader, you won't really be getting this nice effect like we're getting here. You're not going to get these nice light rays as well. So that's what I'm going to show you, how to set up this particular scene, what resources going to use. And like I've said, the project file for this is available on my Patreon. Is also available to download from my ArtStation directly if you just want to play around and not have to go through this tutorial. So let's have a look how we can put these elements together very quickly. The first thing we want to do is we want to get our asteroids. So I'm using Sketchfab, and I just typed in asteroids, and I found this collection over here, which is nice because it's got about 10 asteroids in it, and it's very easy to use. Now you can use any asteroids, even your own, or get some other asteroids from here. It really depends on what you want. So I'm just going to take these here, basically click on them, and they've got a download 3D model. You can also inspect the asteroids. So for example, if you want to see the wireframe of these, that's pretty cool. And once you click download 3D model, you'll be getting an option, and for me, I'm just going to get the FBX, and then I'm going to import them into Blender. Now once you download the the FBX, you will get a compressed archive, so you just need to basically extract that. I'm using 7-zip to extract it, but you can use whatever you want. Then you'll be getting a folder, and inside the folder you'll have a source where you got the FBX of the asteroids, and then the textures for the asteroids. Now we're going to import this asteroid inside the Blender file. So I have a Blender file over here where I can actually delete everything in it. I'm going to press File, Import FBX, and just gonna go to that version, double click the asteroid FBX pack, sorry, and here we have it. Now this is in the first collection over here. I can press F2 on the keyboard to rename it, so I'm going to call this FBX pack, and then we actually don't need to see it anymore. We can just hide it. And now I can create a new collection, and I can call this particles, so you know, like the particle system. So over in here, we could create any type of shape that we want to generate our asteroids. So I'm going to Shift A, and I'm going to be looking for a mesh, and I'm going to select a cylinder. Now with the cylinder selected, I can now go into face mode, select the top layer and delete the face. And then I'm going to go into edge mode, select, well, 1 second, sorry, I keep doing this. Right, select this edge and then shift alt left click, and then it will select the entire edge. And now I can E to extrude and then S to scale downwards like that. So I'm probably going to bring it around there. And then I'm going to add some loops with Control R. So for example, maybe something like that. And then something like that. Okay, so why did I add these loops? Because when I go into face mode, I can now Control Alt click, left click this ring, for example, and I can, or this one here, for example, and I can, 1 second. Oh, sorry, shift click. I'm not getting what I want. God, stop doing that. Jesus. Anyway, right, so we'll select this ring over here, but for some reason, yeah, there we go, shift alt, and I can select and delete these faces, and then I can select these faces here. It just keeps, I'm using this add-on, and unfortunately it's not working miracles for me, I must say. It's actually stopping me from reaching my full potential. Right, let me just go into edge mode, and then with edges, there we go. Right, another face, and then maybe I'll delete this one here as well. Okay, like that. Okay, so I've got these two sort of rings, like, you know, in this sort of way. I could go into edge mode, and for example, select these edges here, and I could scale them up if I wanted to. I could select these here, scale them like that. Anyway, the important part here is that we have some rings available. So now we're gonna go into object mode, make sure that we're in X-ray vision and, in face mode. X-ray vision on, we can select all these faces, press X, and then delete all the faces, and we're left with this. And what I want to do now in object mode, I want to do the origin to geometry, which you can do from object, set origin, origin to geometry, then shift S and selection to cursor, so we can put it down here. Okay, now we can scale this up a bit like that, but now we want to spawn these asteroids on top. So we can select the particle system, press new, we could say asteroid, you know, 01, for example, maybe. And then switch this over to hair, and you can select the advanced option if you want to do some other things with it. But then we have to press the render button in here and select, rather than be a path, we want it to be a collection. And once we select the collection, we can click the asteroid pack, which will then generate all of these. They're obviously quite large, so we need that to be a lot smaller. Something like that for now. And then we can play around with the scale randomness. I think this needs to be a bit larger. Yeah, I think even that is, I think that's a bit too large, but it really depends. So once we have that in place, we also want to go into our, over here where it says show emitter, so make sure you don't see it, and then in viewport display again, show emitter disabled. And now you cannot see the emitter anymore, but you can see the asteroids. So with that done, you can play around with things like, you know, random rotations and all sorts of things in here. So you do want to, you know, you will need to play around with a lot of this sort of stuff based on just what sort of effect you're trying to get in here. So if you want to animate it or not. But now we have this done, we can start working on our light and volume. I'm not going to worry with about the material for the asteroids as of yet, because it's not important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift A, go to light, and add a point light. So the point light is in the center of the scene. We're not seeing anything, but we need to go into render view. So I'm going to press this button to go into render view, but I also want to make sure that we are on cycles and that we're using the GPU to compute. And then I'm just going to open this smaller tab over here, move this over to a shader, and then open the world tab. And in here, I'm just going to disconnect this so we have like a black world, which is what I want to, you know, so it's all dark. Okay, so with that done, we can see some light over there, which is great, but we have nothing to cast it through, so we don't have a medium. So I'm going to create a new collection, call this volume, because I want to keep things nice and clean. I'm going to go into mesh and add in a sphere, UV sphere, like that. And then I'm going to scale the UV sphere up. I'm going to change my material from world to object, and I'm going to make sure that I add a new material to the sphere, at which point I'm going to call this volume. Yeah, let's just leave it as volume. We can delete the principal BSDF from here, and we can now add a volume. So normally we could use just a volume scatter, so we'll do that. And I'm just going to drag this in here, and we can already see something. Now I want to put this to a 0.1, so we're able to actually see through the volume quite nicely, like that. And then we'll leave all the other settings the way they are. Probably just going to change this to like like this tint, so we can get like a nice star look to it. Now with that done, we want to go to our point light and start bumping up the the strength. So let's say 1000. 1000 is pretty harsh, but as you can see, we're getting some light rays, but they're very soft and not very visible. And we're also casting a lot of light on these asteroids, so maybe 100 is better, but now we're losing that effect of the light rays. So what we can do is select the sphere, S and Z on to scale it down on the Z axis only, like that. You can do this even more. And this is what we're getting right now. This is the effect. Now we can scale this up if we want the volume to be affected from larger distances. And again, we could scale on the Z-axis, get sharper lines in there, right? Now, one other thing to do in here is to look at the point light strength and whether or not you want any radius. Now, if you increase the radius of the light, you're going to lose the light rays, but then the light will scatter further away, so to speak, but it's not going to be not sharp, but not focused in one point. Now, to ensure that we're getting our consistent look here, we will want to now add the material to the asteroid packs. So let me just activate the asteroid, just select one of them because they're all using the same material. And in the folder that we got our we downloaded our material, our asteroids, we can now bring in the colors. So I'm just going to bring the base color, roughness, well, the AO, and the normal. I'm not going to do any fancy materials or anything like that. I literally just want to plug these in to just get some materials. So I'm just going to connect the base color like that, and then I'm going to connect the color, the roughness over here, and the AO, sorry, I'm just going to leave that for now. To be honest, I don't even need it. But then the roughness, we can change this from sRGB to a non-color and do the same thing for the normal. With that done, we can now deactivate the pack, and we have the material added to our asteroids, which is diminishing the light that they were receiving, which then will allow us to bump up the light over here. And as you can see, that's a very strong light. And normally what you can do is you can have a look at the sphere material, the volume here, and have a look if you want to, for example, decrease the density or increase it depending on what you need. And you can also play around with the anti-azeotropy to get different effects with this. But the light of 10,000 is definitely pretty strong, so we'll go for about 1,000. And one thing that you want to do now is, for example, you want to duplicate this cylinder, scale it maybe a bit higher, and then you go into the particle system, press this button over here to create a new particle system with the same properties, and now you can play around with the scale of this to get a larger scale of your asteroids. So that's important because the larger the scale is, the more light they will be able to block. So as you can see, we can do something like that to make it a little bit more atmospheric, right? Something like that, or something like that. It really depends, and you can see how far this goes. Now, one other key point in here to push the effect is to play with the compositor. And in Blender 3.5, you can activate the compositor all the time in the viewport. So I'm just going to switch over to the compositor, press the Use Nodes button in here, and between these two, I can look for a glare node and just drop it in. With that, I can change it to ghosts. And then we can, we're not seeing anything in here because that's only going to show up when it's rendered. But if we press the arrow over here and just say always, then the compositor will also show up in the scene. Now, bear in mind, this can have drastic effects on your performance if you're not careful, because the compositor, obviously needs to do all this compositing. You can see it here at the bottom. Whenever I do things, it actually runs the compositor through again. And that's kind of how we get that effect. Now, to make the scene a bit more interesting, you will need more scale, more things going on in it. So normally what you want to do is play around with the scale of the scene and the scale of the asteroids themselves, but you may also want to generate new variations of what you've created already, like pockets of asteroids and things like that. Now, I would say my asteroid is still not big enough, and maybe even more, so something like that. Again, these are massive asteroids now, and there's in the scope of the scene, so we could probably even move them further away. But we can create, pockets nearer the star if we really want to, and I'll show you very quickly how to do that as well. So very quickly, if you want to generate that, we're just going to go into this mode, and then I'm going to Shift A to create a circle. I'm just going to bring it up here, scale it up. I'm then going to be going to my object and convert to mesh, and I can go into edit mode, into edge mode, select the edges, and I can actually extrude like that. So I just immediately create this disk, okay, something like that. And then I'm going to go into object mode. I'm going to duplicate this disk, maybe scale it up, down, things like that. I don't know, it really depends on what you want to do. And then once you scale it and you're happy with it, then you can select all of these, push them into the particle system. Now Control J to combine them if you want, or you could select each of them and maybe move them a bit on the axis, on the Z axis, so they're not overlapping like they are right now. Select all of them and then just Control J. And you want them to basically have a particle system, and you want the particle system to be what you've generated previously. So it could be this particle system, or it could be this particle system, which is the smaller stuff, right? So now if you drop this in somewhere, in here, so let me just go back into render view mode. We can have a look, something like that, and just put them around. Now, one thing to note is that you definitely don't want to have the show emitter box ticked on. I don't even know why the box emitter is actually showing right now, because I'm pretty sure I said to it not to show it, but anyway, yeah, whatever. Right, so we've got that, and then we can push these around, maybe make them smaller, duplicate them around again. So what we've effectively done here is we've generated more pockets of asteroids, which again, you can play around with the scale and get better effects with that. And now one final touch, I would say, to get the scene to look even better. You want to go into the shader editor, into the world settings, and then add a mix shader. Change this to a color. Now this is not important, but if you want it. Now we're going to do a color ramp over here, and we're also going to be adding a noise texture. Connect the factor of the noise texture over here. Put the scale of the noise to be very high, the detail 4.5, roughness to 0. Connect this. You can connect this over into the A value, or just directly into the surface if you want to. And with the color ramp, we can just adjust it and take it like that, and this will add stars in your scene very, very quickly. Now again, it's very important that you play around with this. The reason why I added this mix shader in here is because maybe you want to also connect a RGB color, so to have like a bit of a background color into it. So you could do that, maybe you want a blue or something, and if you do that, then you'll get a blue background. But obviously I would tone this down quite significantly, and then you can play around with the factor if you want to have that blue tint or not. Again, it really depends on what you want. I would just opt in for skyboxes, the skyboxes that I offer on my ArtStation and Patreon and stuff. But yeah, this kind of is the effect. So I hope you all of you guys and gals enjoyed this. And as a final showcase, here is the scene with my Nebula generator added into it as well, the one that there's a tutorial on YouTube, and you can also get it from ArtStation or Patreon if you're a subscriber. And as you can see over here, we're just able to go through this scene, and the nebula's on the other side. The nebula's all around us, actually. You can see these sort of clouds and, these volume clouds everywhere. And this is our scene right now here. Obviously, it needs a bit of a better setup for rendering, but overall you get a nice nebula sort of effect into the same scene where you've got the asteroids on. Sort of the settings that I'm using for this are a 0.1 step rate. You can go even lower if you want to. And then the max samples here 256. I would go in the render as well at 256, depending on what type of sort of resolution you're going to be keeping. But yeah, I would say with the nebula generated and this sort of effect, you're going to have a full-fledged epic looking scene once you get a bit of a setup done, you know, for it to look nicer, for a star sort of effect that you're seeing right here. And that was basically it. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you to the supporters on Patreon. Thank you to supporters on Creo, for people who have purchased my projects, who have basically bought me a coffee. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys found this tutorial useful. Please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Please leave a comment with your you know, any feedback that you may have, your suggestions of how to improve this. And so without any, you know, let's not dwell on this any further. Hope you enjoy what you've learned, if you've learned something. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Thank you for coming by.